Well, here I am on holiday in Halkidiki in Thessaloniki, Greece. And I said that you probably won't hear from me until I get back from holiday. But of course, the latest news is that there's a good chance. I mean, this is odd, isn't it? There's a good chance that we might be able to sign Jhon Duran. Yeah, do you remember him? Jhon Duran, who went to Al Nazir after we put in a phantom bid of £57.5 million for the player last January. And then we were told, well, it was a real bid. It wasn't a phantom bid because what we were going to do was sell players in order to generate the income to buy him. What a load of tosh. But anyway, the latest is that he went to Al Nazir for 65 million euros last January. He's done well, 8 goals in 12 games. And now it sounds like he's not happy there. Money doesn't buy you happiness. Yes, he's earning a king's ransom out there, playing for Al Nazir, playing alongside Ronaldo, etc. But it seems that his mental health has taken a turn for the worst. He's not happy out there. He's not adjusting out there, the Colombian. And Al Nazir, the latest news is apparently they're quite willing to loan him out for the season. And West Ham United, of course, are at the forefront. Will we get him? I don't know. Look, I've added this onto the show that I pre-recorded that's going out. So you're going to see this, then you're going to see the intro of the rest of the show that I actually recorded before I jetted out on holiday. But there you go. The latest is Jhon Duran. After, I mean, we thought this saga was over, didn't we? But clearly it's not. It's still got legs. And there's an apparent interest in bringing Jhon Duran on loan for at least a season from Al Nazir over to West Ham. Could work out. Now, of course, there's going to be an awful lot of issues with the money he's earning. Of course, we're not going to pay him the king's ransom that he's getting out over there. And plus, he's getting all that money tax-free as well. So I don't know how that's going to work out. But it's going to be interesting to see if this comes off. I'd be delighted if it did. I just find it hilarious. But anyway, I hope you enjoy the rest of the video that I pre-recorded. This has been added on to the start of it. I'll see you all soon. Jhon Duran to West Ham United on loan. Couldn't make this up, could you? Welcome back to the West Ham Voice. 2 videos in one day. Well, the reason being is I'm on holiday whilst you're watching this and sunning myself in Greece with the other half, the better half, and I won't be back until next Wednesday. So there won't be that many videos unless there's some breaking news and I'll do a quick one on my phone. There won't be that many videos coming from the West Ham Voice over the next few days. Look, if you're new to this channel or if you've watched me before and yet to become a subscriber, please do subscribe. Costs nothing to subscribe. All the content is free. But if you've enjoyed this video or when you've enjoyed this video, please hit the like button at the end of it. So a video I did that went out on Thursday morning suggested that we could sell enough players in order not to have to lose Mohamed Kudus in this transfer window. The list of players that we're linked to, in the list of players that we look to be potentially selling, you know, we could generate around about 100 odd million pounds for those players. And the targets that we're aiming at are younger players, you know, not very expensive, you know, all in the region of about 20 to 25 million pounds would mean that there'll be a good balance of the number of players that we can sell as opposed to the number of players that we need to buy. Now, 6 players at an average price of 25 million pounds each or 20 million pounds each would be an outlay of anything between 120 and 150 million pounds. And if we manage to generate over 100 million pounds in player sales coming back the other way, then that certainly will keep us within PSR, as well as a deficit that is quite manageable over a period of time, over the length of players that we buy their contracts. It can be done. And it won't surprise me if we find a way of keeping our big players at least for another season at West Ham United, whilst we sort of move on players that kind of don't want to be here. Big question mark over whether Kudus wants to be here or not. Maybe if we start playing him in his rightful position. Let's not forget, the first season he was with us, both Bowen and Kudus revelled, didn't they? They both scored a huge number of goals and they played really well in the same team. So it can be done. It can be done. But having said that, if we sell Kudus, that means we might realise an income of player sales of up to about what? 170, 180 million pounds instead of just 100 if we don't sell him. Now, 180 million pounds would allow us to buy anything up to about 7 players at an average price of 25 million pounds. That would give us 5 million pounds in the bank as well after. So if we were to buy 6 or 7 players, who are we actually targeting? Let's not forget, we welcome a number of players into next season's squad. For example, Mahamadou Kante will be joining the senior squad from Paris Saint-Germain. We bought him last summer, but we loaned him back to the French club whilst they were looking to get back into League One, which they did. And now Kante is due to come to West Ham United this coming summer. There's, of course, Daniel Cummings from Celtic, and, of course, Freddie Potts after a successful loan spell as well. So there are players coming in to add to the, if we get, we know we're losing 8 players already because of contracts expiring. We could sell anything up to another 7. So 15 players going means that, and with players coming in, we still have a healthy number of players of about 15 or so players, 15, 16 players. We buy another 5 or 6 on top of that. There's the small squad that Graham Potter wants. So who are we targeting? Well, I find the targets quite encouraging. Yes, of course, there are some stories out that we're looking at. A few older players like Josh Brownhill from Burnley, 29 years of age, etc. I don't mind if he comes in and does a good job for West Ham. But the majority of players that we're looking at are younger players at a decent price. And this is the kind of thing that Carl Macaulay has done in the past. And the first players, I'm going to start with strikers first of all, because what Macaulay seems to be doing is we keep being linked to quite a number of players in the French league. And the first one, of course, is Lucas Stassin from Saint Etienne. Now, with the news that Stassin actually now wants to leave the relegated French club, we might be looking at the future of our striker options rather than the past. And when I say the past, you know what we've been through in the past. David Moyes, when he took over in his second time round in 2019, one of the first things he did was he installed a makeshift striker in Mikel Antonio up front. At the time, Moyes had the likes of Sebastian Haller at his disposal, but it was evident that it was Antonio who was going to be the top boy in the striker role rather than Haller. That was further endorsed in 2021-22 season when Antonio was handed the number 9 shirt. Just 6 months after that, Haller was shipped off to Ajax for less than half the money than we bought him for. And despite a few feeble attempts to bring in striker reinforcements, such as the likes of Danny Ings and Gianluca Scamacca, Antonio has always remained the number 1 choice for Moyes. But now it seems that Antonio's days could be numbered at West Ham, and the latest round of talks between him and the club and his agents seems to have stalled. Now, whilst of course there may still be a small chance of reaching a satisfactory conclusion for all parties, it seems that West Ham are more determined than ever to bring in a younger number 9, which is music to my ears, certainly. Perhaps West Ham might wait and see what will happen with Antonio and his international appearances that might be coming up for Jamaica over the next few days. But let's see what happens there. Under Julian Lopetegui, of course, we brought in, Nicholas Fulkrug. Okay, that was Tim Steidten. But again, an injury-prone striker, 32 years of age, sustaining quite 2 big, substantial injuries. And then, of course, under Graham Potter, we brought in Evan Ferguson. That was a bit of disaster as well. And the only reason why Ferguson came in was because he was meant to be a stopgap in case Fulkrug got injured. Now, I'm guessing if Antonio wasn't involved in his car accident, maybe, just maybe, West Ham United would have given him that 1 year extension on his contract. But we're here now with the summer transfer window open, or part two of it about to open. And we finally, almost as if by no choice, we finally have to address our striker situation. And that for me is a huge positive. With Antonio 1 foot out the door, concerns about Nicholas Fulkrug. We don't even know if we're going to keep Nicholas Fulkrug at West Ham next season. And with concerns about his injuries, we finally are looking at the potential of bringing in a younger striker to West Ham United. A number of strikers have been linked, and I mentioned that Macaulay seems to be doing his homework in the French league, where a number of strikers playing in the French league have been mentioned. Jonathan David, as we know, is a player that we were courting. We were trying to get him on a free to come to West Ham United. Apparently, he was impressed. He was encouraged. We were encouraged by the fact that he was impressed with what Graham Potter's vision for West Ham United. But unfortunately, it just didn't persuade him enough to want to sign on the dotted line. And we love to think that it was just a bit more than wishful dreaming for David to come to West Ham. And if we can almost attract a striker like him, then surely we can attract some really good strikers that are coming from the French league. As mentioned, Macaulay's done his homework. We've been linked to Emmanuel Omega, Ludovic Ajorc, Evan Gassand, Gaetan Laborde, Ryan Cherky, Breelin Bolo, all players who have featured in the French league. But it's Stassin, the player, that I think there's most interest in. Now, he's a new name to a lot of us, but Stassin is a very interesting target indeed. He joined Saint Etienne only last summer from Belgian club KVC Westerlo for a fee of 10 million euros. He's had a very good first season with Saint Etienne, despite the fact that they got relegated. In fact, his goal-scoring stats are better than those of Ryan Cherky of Lyon, and he stands on par with Evan Gassand, where both strikers have scored 12 goals in League One last season. But what's interesting about Stassin is, compared to just about every other striker that we're supposed to be looking to be linked to, is his price tag. Now, it's suggested that he's got a relegation clause of 10 million euros. That's just £8 million. Now, realistically, he is valued at more than that, perhaps between 15 to 20 million pounds. Sorry, 15 to 20 million euros. But if the relegation clause is realised, any club can get him on the cheap. Now, look, the new owners of Saint Etienne, the Canadian investment group, are said to be in no rush to start selling players from the club. Their preference is to keep players who want to stay and build in order to try and get back into League One next season. But the latest, as I've mentioned, is that Stassin apparently wants to leave. He wants to leave because the under-21 Belgian international has got one eye on next year's World Cup, and he would like to be part of the senior Belgian team. Now, as a Belgian international, under-21 international, he scored 2 goals in 9 appearances for his side so far. There's a lot of interest in Stassin from several clubs, so it'd be interesting to see whether we're actually going to make a move for him. But Stassin would absolutely suit Graham Potter's style of play because he's more than just a big target man up front. He's a good link-up player too. He can, and if you notice how Potter's used Nicholas Fulkrug in the last few games of last season, Fulkrug was dropping a little bit deeper in order to get involved in the build-up play. Stassin does that really, really well. But just like every other player we've been linked to, if we don't move for him soon, he's likely to be heading elsewhere in order to ply his trade next season for another club, another league, who knows. Now, what about other players? So goalie-wise, we've been linked to, as we already know, Aaron Ramsdale, mentioned for around £20 million, and also the possibility of keepers from Chelsea, George Petrovic, who was out on loan at Strasbourg last season, 25 years of age, and Robert Sanchez, who we keep hearing is a bit of a calamity goalkeeper. Now, all again, roughly priced at around £20 million. And despite AC Milan's interest in Freiburg's 23-year-old keeper Noah Atubolu, it suggested that the former German under 21 international favours a move to the Premier League rather than Italy. Furthermore, there's still confusion over Atubolu's contract, where it suggested that he may actually be a free agent this coming summer. And if there was another incentive to go and get him, Atubolu is managed by Will Salthouse or Will Salthouse's agency. As for defenders, the links to both free targets, CJ Egan Riley of Burnley and Carl Walker Peters of Southampton, have come up yet again, with suggestions that we made a 5-year contract bid for Egan Riley. However, it's also suggested that the likes of Marseille and Strasbourg are also pursuing the player. And with the lure of Champions League football, he may well be tempted to go either to Marseille or Strasbourg rather than going to West Ham United. Of course, for any player that's on a free transfer, there is, of course, a signing on fee, but that is obviously significantly lower than any transfer fee that we'd have to pay for a player if we get them from another club. There's also the resurrected story that we're back in for Argentine centre back Kevin Lomonaco. He was on loan at Argentinian club Atletico Independiente last season from Brazilian club Red Bull Bragantino. Now, there's some confusion because it's been suggested that the Argentinian club have actually now signed the player on a permanent contract, but I'm not so sure. It's still he's still listed on Transfer Market as a Bragantino player. He's got a release clause of 18 to 20 million euros, and it's been suggested that if this is triggered, the club won't stand in the way of the 23-year-old leaving. I don't know if the actual rumour of linking him to West Ham is actually true, but I guess we'll soon find out. In midfield, Rafael Onyedika is still reported to be our main target. Again, price tag of around £20 million. And with a whole host of other midfielders also being linked, such as Morten Friendrup from Genoa and various others, again, at a price tag of around the same sort of fee, £20 million. And the latest link to a midfielder is Sheffield United's Sidi Peck, who was once on Arsenal's academy books. Peck moved to the north in order to get his career on track. But even a year ago, that was looking rather unlikely, with a loan move to Rotherham United being mooted. But a year is a long time in football, and opportunities arose for Peck to break into the senior team because of injuries, and things have looked up ever since, with Sheffield United having just missed out on promotion to the Premier League. It is thought that clubs like West Ham United are now looking to do business for this 20-year-old midfielder. He's got an abundance of energy. He's a combative midfielder and an intelligent ball player as well. And West Ham can pick him up this time for as little as £8 million. He could certainly add strength in depth, couldn't he? And we've been finally linked to Hayden Hackney of Middlesbrough. And apparently West Ham have been admirers of this midfielder for quite some time. I kind of recall maybe in the distant past, I might have spoken about him. The 22-year-old primarily defensive midfielder is certainly a player who can add, again, more steel to our West Ham defence. Midfield, sorry. He's got great ball retention, always looking to pass the ball forward rather than sideways and backwards, and works well as a deep-lying midfield playmaker. But do Middlesbrough want to sell? That's the thing. It's going to be interesting to see now that Michael Carrick has left, what Middlesbrough are going to do with their squad and what manager. Have they got a new manager? I don't know. But at a fee of around £15 million, this versatile midfielder is another player that is interesting to be linked to. Look, one thing is for certain. When Potter said he was looking to bring the average age of the squad down, he certainly wasn't joking. It's encouraging to see so many reports on players that being linked to players who are young, dynamic, and not going for a lot of money. If we were to be If we were to add an experienced player or two to that to bring balance to the squad, then so be it. I'm certainly looking forward to the second half of the transfer window when it reopens. I'm hoping that we're going to start doing our business sooner rather than later. But of course, it all depends, as we keep being told, on having to sell players before we buy. Let's hope we do end up selling players so we can start bringing some of these talents to West Ham United. Thank you for watching and listening. Please do leave your comments. Please do hit the like button and please become a subscriber if you've enjoyed the show. And I'll see you all after my holiday.